is 7 o'clock. I'm calling to order the September 24th meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a couple of announcements. The meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media Channel 15, and there are several openings on several committees. Please refer to the Select Board page on our website for a listing and application. Next, we have the community prayer. Who would like to do the honors?
I guess I'll do the honor. Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can be. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, and that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
It's now time for citizens' participation. Is there anyone here interested in participating? Seeing no one. The next item of business is the Eagle Scout project update. Maybe you could tell them to come in, Elaine?
No, I'll go get it.
The Eagle Scout. Thank you. Sorry. Maybe the two Eagle Scouts could sit there so they can use the microphone.
Hi, it's Mike Pompeii with Carver.
Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, Mike. Could you pull the microphone really?
Sorry about that.
Pull the microphone really close so people at home can hear you. Thank you.
Again, Mike Pompeii with Carver Boy Scouts Troop 48. We're here tonight with Matt Cipolo and David Stidstone to put a project forth to the work that's going to be done to the Carver Library. They're going to be doing some beautification projects to the library itself. We thought it would be great with the police department being open soon, and do some work around the library, some work around the landscaping, the foundation of the library itself. And I'd like to introduce Max Cipolo first to explain his project.
My name is Max Cipolo. I'm here with Troop 48. My project is to do some landscaping around the library, around the foundation of the library, and a couple of the trees out by the parking lot. I think it would look great with, like Mr. Pompeii said, the new police station going up, and the school down the street, and the fire station, all relatively new buildings. I think it would help the town, it would help the library make the town look better as a whole.
Would you like to maybe explain in a little more detail what you plan to do?
So I have a few photos here. Most of the gardens around the foundation could use some weeding and some mulch, maybe some weed whacking and replanting of maybe some plants, because some of the bushes surrounding the foundation kind of look like they could use some life.
There's 9 gardens in total that we counted, and we're all pretty overgrown and kind of beat up, so there's a lot of work with the landscaping itself, and just general upkeep, trimming it back, and kind of getting it away from the foundation, which David will alluded to, which his project is, so we
Okay.
can actually get behind there and paint.
Okay, great. Just one heads up, be sure that you check and make sure the plants, if you're planting new plants, that you're not planting anything that's invasive. I made that mistake myself, so. Yeah, unfortunately, no burning bushes. Right. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Max before he leaves? Thank you, Max.
I just appreciate his diplomacy, that's all, with regard to the current condition of the facilities.
Mr. Sidstone.
So, hi, my name is David Stidstone. I'm with
Could-
Marion as well.
Could you speak into the microphone? Pull it real close.
My name is David Stidstone. I'm also with Troop 48, and my project is to paint the bottom trim of the library, because right now, as it is chipping, it is falling apart, and it needs a new coat of paint. We are planning to use the same color as the gazebo that Nathan Bradshaw did in his Eagle Scout project over by the gazebo. We're using that same cranberry color to paint that so it'll match. And like Max said, we also want to make sure the library looks just as good as the new police station, the fire station, and the new school right down the street.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Stidstone?
Oh, no, but I thought of something, I guess a joint one. There's a Girl Scout coming before us too who wants to put a rain garden. Make sure the replanting and tearing down of the gardens doesn't tear down her rain garden.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good point. Coordinate.
Plan on helping each other. So
Awesome.
Oh, good.
I love it all, so
That's
just,
good.
yeah.
That's
I
great.
make a motion, we approve all these 2 projects.
You may.
Seconded.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
And next, we have the Girl Scout Ambassador Gold Award Project with Isabella Pompeii.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
can we just make sure we get letters written out for them, saying that we've approved the projects?
Yep.
If Rick can do that for us, and
Mhm.
so they can put it in their workbook.
Yes, absolutely. Elaine, you've made a note of that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi. Welcome. Hi. You Speak into the microphone, Isabel. That's for people at home. Okay.
My name is Bella Pompeii. I'm an ambassador Girl Scout in Troop 80893, and I'm going to do my gold award at the library, and I'll be building a rain garden for my project.
That's terrific.
Yeah, so I've also talked to Carol Julius, and I got an approval from her, so I did talk to her about the program and and I'll be doing an education with her as well, so they were very pleased with the project when I was there.
That- That's great. I have a question for you. Is it going to be a sunken garden?
Yeah, so it's kind of like there's a divot in the middle that'll collect the water, and then the plants go around that divot. So it helps with flooding, but it can also take pollutants out of the soil.
Right.
Because you mostly put very resistant plants in it, like grasses, shrubs,
That's great. You'll be a wetland scientist someday, maybe. Yeah, so just the same warning that I gave the other 2 gentlemen, be sure you don't plant anything invasive.
Yeah, no, it's, the part in my project explains them using local plant species to kind of boost up their population as well, so that's another goal of the project.
That's great. That's terrific. Is there
I'll make a
anyone?
motion to
Motion.
approve the project.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any discussion, questions for Isabella? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The project is approved. Thank you, Isabella.
Thank
It's a
you.
wonderful project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, if we can get a letter
Yep.
sent out
Mhm.
for your workbook.
Yep.
Thank you.
We will make a note of that. At this time, we are going to discuss the police department donation acceptance. Resident Lacey Geronimo is donating $880 for sneakers for each police officer. Is there someone here?
I think the information supplied by the chief should be fine. He offered to come tonight, and I advised him that I think we can
Okay.
handle this, so just so you know. Shall I read his email just for the
Sure,
record?
please. I know we've seen it, but.
Sure, okay. This is from the chief to me. He says, as we discussed, a resident, Lacey Aronimo, has asked to make a donation to the police officers and the department. She works with a charitable organization called Honor and Respect that produces sneakers to honor law enforcement, first responders, and military. She would like to donate a pair of sneakers for each officer. The value that she provided is $55 per pair. This would make a total of $880 for the value of the gift. I'm forwarding this information so that we can get a determination of the proper way to receive the donation, and I suggested that it should be accepted as a gift by the select board. So, nice gesture, very
Yes,
nice gesture.
It is,
So,
definitely. So I'll entertain a motion to accept this gift donation.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. And maybe we should do a letter of thanks
that's
to
a good
Ms.
idea.
Geronimo for that.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have the grant approval, Fire Department Assistance Grant Award, $239,000, consisting of $227,000 in grant funds and the town share of $11,380.95. Chief Weston.
Good evening. Everyone doing okay? Can you hear me?
Good, thanks, yes.
Obviously, we're a little delayed, tried to get to the meeting a few weeks ago. But tonight, I'm here to announce, very proud to announce, for a lot of hard work from our fire department staff. We did successfully receive a Fema fire assistance grant for $239,000. With grants, in times of uncertain municipal finances, successful grant opportunities don't come along that often. So it's very important for fiscally responsible towns like ourselves to try to take advantage of it. Back in February 2020, we notified our then previous town administrator that we intended to apply for 2 FEMA fire assistant grants. One to replace our 1967 reserve brush breaker. It's a small, for a smaller type forestry unit, and one to try to replace our aging Jaws of Life tools on our Rescue 1. We were given the go-ahead to apply for both. As any monies received to replace the vehicle or the Jaws of Life could benefit the community, would be items that we could remove from our capital outlay future costs, and obviously could save our taxpayers significant money. So the FEMA grant program is a very competitive grant program with over 10,000 applications submitted this year, and only 200 vehicle grants were awarded. So it's a 2% percentage to get a vehicle grant. Our grants were submitted back on February 28th, and due to COVID, obviously, we didn't receive word until in August of our success, so everything was delayed quite a bit. On August 26th, we were officially notified by FEMA that we had been awarded the fire assistance grant for $239,000, and this is for a forestry-type fire apparatus. The grant was written specifically for forestry apparatus, as that was considered a high priority by FEMA for this round of funding this year. You kind of have to fall into their parameters of what they're looking to fund if you can meet that need. The apparatus we're replacing is a 1967 brush breaker. It's going to be replaced with a modern small brush breaker that's going to be capable of responding to emergency incidents, not only deep in our woods around town or the Miles Interstate Forest, but in some of the solar array systems we have, cranberry bog operations with narrow roadways. It's going to have the capabilities to tow some of our trailers, our boats, hovercraft, light tower, etc. The grant does require a 5% match from the community. That amount is $11,380. In addition to the match, we will need to equip the vehicle to meet our exact needs. I have worked with Mr. LaFawn and previous town administrator. At that time, we calculated that need, including the match, to be somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000. That'll need to be appropriated at some point, not now, but at some point, as the grant is good for 1 year, to complete the build and the upfit. Our plan was to work with Mr. LaFawn in previous discussions and the Finance Committee to try to acquire those funds in matching matching funds. We have 1 year to take ownership of the vehicle and close out the grant. FEMA is very specific, and they give a very strict timeline of how fast this has to be done. You have to design, procure, receive, and close out the grant in 1 year. Doing that for a vehicle is not easy, as most vehicles normally have a minimum build time of 270 days from the time you receive the chassis, so they could be well into a year and a half. So the vendor we are working with feels they can meet that time frame, and we have worked that out. We are still waiting word on an award for a Jaws of Life grant from FEMA. That grant is for $110,000 with a 5% match. I could be back with more good news, but I will be honest, that notification, that timeline is starting to slim very quickly right now, and we haven't received notification. But there are 2 rounds still to go, so we could hear about that. I'd like to conclude just by saying, to date, the Carver Fire Department has received close to $2 million in competitive grant monies for equipment. This year alone, we received $355,000 in grant monies, which equates to over half our entire fire department budget. Each year, we continue to apply for grants, try to remove those burdens from our taxpayers. When you do apply for grants, sometimes there is a cost-sharing match and some costs that comes with it, sometimes there isn't. Anytime you can take advantage of monies that reduces capital costs or future investments, it makes financial sense to try to do that. So sometimes we're successful, and sometimes we're not, but at least we try. So I wanted to thank the board, and I certainly answer any questions that you have.
But before you do, I just want to say that I've spoken to the finance director, chairman of the finance committee, and there certainly isn't going to be any concerns about how we fund the local share. So Craig and his staff have done the hard part, so we can do our part.
I was curious how that would be funded. Will it just be a plain appropriation at a town meeting?
Yeah, we have the capital projects account that does have some ability with the chairman of the capital outlay committee and the town administrator to move some of those funds. There's also reserve fund monies that, again, talking to the chairman of the finance committee, that he's happy to recommend to the finance committee to use also, if necessary.
That's good, because I wouldn't want to lose the grant because we didn't have the...
Sure, and those aren't funds, the 11,000 is a given, but the rest of the funds that the chief cites doesn't necessarily have to be, in place all at one time.
Okay.
It may be a situation where, it's an estimate. It cost me be another, 10,000 and not 20,000. So I think it's best just to take that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept this grant.
So moved.
Approve the grant, rather.
Second it.
Is there further discussion, questions? Mr. Townsend?
Chief, just please thank everyone involved in obtaining these grants for us. You're absolutely right. In these uncertain times, but all the time, fiscal budgets are tight, and anytime we can get a grant of this magnitude certainly makes life a lot easier. So please congratulate everybody for us.
And it is very competitive. Right, it's very competitive.
Mr. Belbin?
I also want to say thank you very much. And the equipment that we'll be putting out of service, that other brush breaker will come out of service. Will that be sold, or will that be donated to another town, or how will that be handled?
That's a good question. That is a stipulation of the grant, that if you're buying a piece of apparatus, the one you're replacing has to come out of service, and it can no longer be used for fire department responses. There is a provision that you can keep it to associate with training, but it cannot be sold or donated to another department for fire department responses. It has to come out of service. I will tell you that vehicle has a long history with the town and our department. Our department has rehabbed that vehicle a couple times with their own money, so it has a special sentimental value to us. It's my goal to try to keep that vehicle in some capacity, not for responses, maybe parade, maybe shrink wrap it, maybe find a cranberry grower that can store it or something to keep that that momentum. So, but it will no longer be a frontline apparatus or a responding apparatus. It's just not safe to do so. That's why we're replacing it. But I'm real hesitant to get rid of it. I'll send it to the scrap yard. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Definitely. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Please
Thank
thank
you.
your department as well.
And thanks to the deputy who's
Yes, and thank
hiding
you,
in the
Deputy.
corner.
Okay. The next item of business is the Wenham Shores Conservation Restriction conveyance to Fish and Game and the care and custody to the Carver Conservation Commission article for special town meeting. Come on in, Mrs.
Leighton.
Thank you, Mrs. Layton and Ms. Pierce.
Joanna, you want to sit up here? Talk about it, or?
They're both going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll grab a chair here.
Okay.
All right.
But before we start the discussion, I just want everyone to know, we're not voting on this tonight. I wanted you all to hear about it from one of the Wenham Shores residents, as well as from Joan Pierce, who's here with Fish and Game. It's been a long, complicated process, and I wanted them to kind of, especially bring the two new board members up to speed on this. I know Mark and Bob and I, it was on the town meeting in the spring, and it just got taken off along with a whole bunch of other stuff. So I just wanted them to bring you up to date so you weren't hit over the head with it to vote on it on the 30th. So please, Mrs. Pierce. Excuse me, Ms. Pierce. I beg your pardon. Yes, you may.
So, yes, I'm Joan Pierce.
Joan, bring that mic real close for people at home. It doesn't sound like it makes a difference, but it does.
Is this better?
Yes.
So I'm Joan Pierce. I work for the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game out of our Southeast District office in Buzzards Bay, and I cover southeastern Massachusetts. And maybe a year ago or so,
At least.
we were contacted by residents in Wenham Shores. They were concerned that the recreation area, and I think everybody has gotten a map,
Mm-hmm.
was going to be auctioned, and what could we help them, information and so forth. And so we've stayed in touch with the residents, and that matter was taken off, no longer going to be auctioned, but the residents and we were, we would like to see the recreation area stay open to the public. It is on the shores of a great pond where the public is allowed to go fishing anyway. And so we've worked with the residents, and we have, you know, a draft or final, more or less in final form, article for town meeting. And so I'm here to answer questions. I think the plan is, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, that after town meeting, we will get into more detailed discussions with the town about the terms of the conservation restriction. That's the simplest way to put it. Clearly, the town Board of Selectmen has to approve it. The warrant article is to authorize you to do so, but no, you have to actually see the document, talk about it. You'll be back to answer questions, so you don't have to worry about that part.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. And just so people know, the Fish and Game wants to protect this parcel. It's a little slightly over an acre, and then Picnic Isle is a separate parcel, and that's the picture I handed out there with no explanation to you. It should be on your tables. That's right in the middle of the pond, and that's even less area. But as Joan pointed out, this is a great pond, and the conservation restriction at the moment, I think we all, those of us who do this kind of thing or used to do it, don't like that term. But what it means is that it will just stay in perpetuity for outdoor recreational and conservation use, just the way it is now, except it won't be able to become a house lot, for example. So that's what that term means. And the conservation restriction conveyance has to happen first, and then secondarily, so that's part of the article that I sent to Elaine, she distributed to you, it would hopefully go into the care and custody of the Carver Conservation Commission. So essentially nothing will change, except it'll be protected forever. So that's, does anyone have any questions or thoughts?
Does
for our guests.
This was
Mr. Hoffman.
the access for the neighborhood to get to the
Yep.
pond for the fishing and things like that, right?
It exists already.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I'm familiar with this area, but that's
Oh, okay.
that's the area they were talking about
Yes,
where
it is.
they would always access that.
It is.
Okay.
And I actually, I took a picture of that access. It's kind of a nice picture because it, goes down to the pond. And I just couldn't find it or I would have sent it to you. But yeah, that's the spot.
This is a great, go ahead.
Yeah, short and sweet, this is great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You have
Yes.
my support.
Yep, definitely needed.
Anyone
I'll
else?
also say, Sarah has invited me to be back here next Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Oh, my God.
That's when we're going to be voting to put the articles on the special warrant, and I just thought,
And if you have questions in between then, Sarah has my email address if you want to do that, or take my phone number if you want to give me a call.
yes, Mrs. Layton.
I have, I don't need a microphone.
Yes, you do.
The people,
Yeah.
People at home want to hear you.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I took some pictures today, Sarah,
Mhm.
for the board. I gladly send them to you. You can, keep what you want, go out, but they can have a better view of what's, that looks like.
Sure, that would be lovely. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, and I wanted to point out, Mrs. Layton has been at many, many meetings over this, and I know that at one meeting we had here in the select board room, there were, 35
Yes.
neighbors here, I mean, in support of this, so.
You have to tell them not to come.
Okay, because there were tonight, yeah, because there's just too many people. Right,
Just for an FYI, on October 7th, we'll be meeting with the Conservation Committee as well.
good,
And hopefully some more people would like to come, but I think it's restricted as well.
Sure.
I think they meet up here.
Yeah.
To get them acquainted with what we're doing, we've had the luxury of having Brooke working with us closely. And also visiting the site as well as Joan. And thank you, Sarah, too.
Certainly.
Really great. I'm the only one that didn't go in the canoe. I don't like
That's all right.
I don't like it, so
It was fun.
yeah, I know it. You know it. But anyway, that's the gist of it. If there's any kind of plans or anything you want to see, we'd gladly give it to you. We have a lot of information that we've collected.
That's good, thank you, Mrs. Layton. I also gave everyone this Google Earth picture. I think I sent you one more that Ms. Pierce had done for us. At any rate, yes, if you want more different angles or assessor's maps or whatever, we can send
Yeah,
those along.
this is the particular one here. I think you sent that out, Sarah. That shows, and I think your people have it, your board members. It shows that the property line estimated from the recorded plan is different than the property line
Right.
that was from the assessor's map.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did send that out.
Understand.
Right,
Also, the survey, and I wrote to Brooke, but I didn't get an answer back. Art Borden is resurveying that property with stone boundaries, and
Good.
he's supposed to be including the path of the roadway, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
That goes from the top of the road down to the fishing area.
Good.
I'm not quite sure if that's been completed, but I'm sure Brooke will answer.
yeah. I know it is in the process, yeah. And just so people know, this is already town-owned land, so it's, this is just one further protection for it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you both.
Thank you,
Unless there are more
ladies.
questions.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll be back Thursday next week.
Thank you, Joan. Appreciate
And
it.
could I say one more thing?
Certainly.
I'm almost never done. I'd like to thank the town administrator.
Mhm.
He was so supportive of us in getting the survey and so forth done, so I'd like to thank him for that. Then also, thank you. Thanks, Rick.
Mr. LaFawn, you were just thanked.
And just, you mentioned next Thursday, it's actually next Wednesday morning that.
Yeah, actually, it is Wednesday, the 30th. The 30th. Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Thank you both so much. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a request for a common victualer's license, Chan and Guan, LLC DBA Little Kitchen. Is there anyone here for that particular license? Please come have a seat up here. Could you just introduce yourself? And if you want to take your mask off, you may. It's up to you, though, entirely. Oh, I'm sorry. That's all right. That's all right. We do these victualers licenses a lot, so it's not a lot to say. You're not changing anything, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Elaine, Rick, anything? Everything's all set? Okay. Okay.
Status quo, yes.
All right. I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve this license.
I'll make that motion to approve the license.
Is there a
Second
second? Okay. Any further discussion?
I guess, is this just a renewal of a current license? Is that what this is?
They're changing the name, looks like, owners.
So, I believe you're new owners? Are you new owners?
That's all we're doing, just changing the name?
So it's new owners, same name?
Same name.
And that typically, I didn't even know that was allowed in the state of Massachusetts, but apparently it's the same LLC and name.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I love the food.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The license is granted. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Is that a conflict of interest, Bob?
Excuse me?
Is that a conflict of interest?
I don't know, I had it the other day, so I mean,
Well, we all participate in these places that ask for licenses, so. Next item up is a request for common victualler license, Moonrise Audio Visual LLC.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, could you just introduce yourself? Thank you for being here.
My name is Tito Ladd, and we're bringing a drive-in movie theater to the King Richard property. And we have a concession stand, so that's what that's all about.
Wow, a real drive-in movie theater? Interesting, okay. Anything else we need to know?
Happy to answer questions. If anyone's got anything, I can tell you about it. It's-
Right. Just so there's no zoning implications.
Well, that's the only thing I was going to ask.
Right. I think
Are there?
there aren't.
Okay.
I think one of the, oftentimes, do you have a lease agreement with the owner of the property?
We have a lease agreement with King Richard's Fair.
Okay,
So we're subletting
Okay.
from them, and we've also been in touch with the landlord.
okay, because usually that would be part of the application process or contingency that we have to see that he actually has a right to use the land.
Rick, you need to speak into the mic, too, I'm sorry.
Okay. I said a lease agreement is something we would usually keep with the license file.
Okay.
And any approval would obviously be contingent upon that, because he has to have a right to the land to be
Right.
able to exercise the license. But again, it's generally a formality, but something that we'll be aware of, that we'll need,
Okay.
we'll need a copy of
Copy if you'd
that.
like
Okay.
to know.
Yes, please do, thank you. And you say there are no zoning issues?
No zoning issues.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve this license.
So moved.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any further discussion?
I guess,
Mrs. Pope?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, so one administrative thing, this is a license renewal application, but since this is a new use, is this the right application for it?
It's the same.
This is a request, this is not a renewal.
Well, the form filled out says license renewal application.
Ah.
So I just wanted to know if it's okay
I
to use
see.
the same one. And you say it's okay. Okay, and number two, you got to tell us what movies are playing and when and how people can find out, so.
MoonriseCinemas.com. We just announced all of our movies today, and they're selling fast.
Okay, when does it start?
October 1st through the 31st.
Okay.
Halloween-themed month.
Okay, we have a big viewing audience, so just get it out there. Okay.
And it was brought up to me when I came into the office the other day that town meeting might be looking for a home, and I'd love to entertain that conversation. That's something. We are a safe, COVID-compliant venue that can host a lot of people. And if that is something that was a serious request, I'm happy to talk to anybody about that.
Just
Awesome.
What movie would be played during a town meeting? That's the question.
Mr. Townsend, you had something to say.
I had the same question about the application, so
Okay.
I'm all set.
Okay. And what did you say the website was again?
MoonriseCinemas.com.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Belvin?
Just want to make sure that you've checked with the police, the fire, the health board, make sure all the permits are up when you
Correct.
get in there, and, because I want to see this go through.
I've spoken to pretty much every office in this building at this point, and both the police and fire department, and I had a follow-up phone call with the fire department the other day, and went into full detail on our plans and all of the safety protocols and everything, and we'll be in full compliance with the state guidelines for drive-ins, phase 3.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
So this will be open just for the month of October?
Just
That's
for the month
plan.
of October.
Okay, and I see you're asking for food, so there'll be a concession stand as well?
Yeah, we have a concession stand and traffic
Okay.
assistance part of our operation.
It's a good time to do some PR for you, so you can have a little advertisement.
Well, if you're gonna, if you,
Delicious popcorn.
There you go.
what foods are you going to be serving there?
We
Hey,
have
I'm going a little further, man.
the best movie theater popcorn you've ever had. Candy, popcorn, soda, hot dogs, sausages, nachos, ice cream.
I did see a Facebook post as well, so good job with that.
So 80,000 other people.
Yep, yep, it was a great job.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's all family friendly. There's something for everyone. Kids,
Yep.
this is cool.
We were conceived in COVID in June, so we are like the safe way to gather with the community as part of our mission. And that's why we've been traveling, mostly, we spent the summer in Vermont, in mostly underserved communities, so like away from the bigger parts of the state, more in the rural parts of the state. So I'm a Pembroke local myself, so this was my way to bring it close to home for my family as well.
That's terrific. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
Okay. Next, we have the update from Mr. Belbin and Mr. LaFond on the town of Marion's withdrawal from the CMW Carver Marion Wareham Regional Refuse Disposal District, and on all other solid waste / recycling options, including the transfer station. Who would like to start?
I think Bob would love to start.
Okay.
All right, so, we had our meeting for the district yesterday here in this room, and, the big part of what went on is the, exit agreement for Marion from the district. Through numerous meetings that we've had through the district, that we came to an agreement that Marion would leave the district. They get to keep the Benson Brook facility, which they would always do that if the district ever stopped doing business. So that was a given. They received 2 different equipments, part of the deal. They don't want any money from us, from the district, which is really good for us. And the district, we're going to pay for the liabilities that are out there for employee liabilities or whatnot. So, and January 1, that's when this starts for a new district, whichever way it comes at. So that'll bring us into, what do we do for the district after that? Do we keep the transfer station running or not? And Rick and I have been in talks with Wareham, and this agreement with Marion will go to the Marion voters. They'll vote on it. They accept it, great, they're out of the district. Carver and Wareham can work together to create a transfer station. That's my opinion that we should do. I'm only one member of the district. I have 2 other members for Carver and 3 from Wareham. Carver doesn't have to vote on this agreement. It just has to do with Marion. What else? how will this affect our town? The discussions between Wareham and Carver relative to keeping the transfer station open, we looked at it a couple of different ways. Through a municipal agreement was one, and that allowed opportunity where Wareham would be the leader and we're trying to just follow along with them, and they'd be in charge of everything. There's some problems with that because we'd have to go for new licensing, we'd have to do a lot more legwork. Where the district is already set up, where we have the permits, we have the licensing, everything's already there in place. It's a lot, in my opinion, easier to keep the district in place and have the district run the transfer station. That's my recommendation. It goes down to cost. So cost estimate right now would probably be around $100 to $125 for a sticker. And then there would be either a punch card system or a bag program initiated where just, I don't have the numbers for it, but say it's $25 for a card, all right, $2.50 a bag, and you do a punch card. So each punch you get, all right, if it's a small barrel, you get 3 punches. If it's a large barrel, it's 4 punches, something like that. That's just me talking, not, we haven't agreed upon this, but that's just my opinion of it. And then to transfer over into a bag system. Within 6 months, we review how things are going, and then a year, we review again. The idea is that the initial sticker costs would be for just running the facility, which is somewhere around $650,000 a year, just to run the transfer station. The punch card system or bag system would actually pay for getting rid of all the trash and recyclables. And that's pretty much it. We've had limited discussions with the our administrator for the district, and with this agreement that we voted on, it allows us now to really delve into the particulars of running a transfer station through the district, something that we haven't done. We've always had Covanta do it. Now it's time for us to step up and take on that role of running a district and running the transfer station and hopefully succeeding. What I've always said is if it's not going to work within 2 years, it's time for us to turn around and move on to a closure of it. And we'll never close the district itself. It'll always be a district, but we just won't be in the trash business. And we'll just pay off what we need to pay off for bills. One of the other things with the agreement with Marion is that originally they wanted to be released from liability, all liability. I opposed that. They came back and said, we're not going to. They're going to have their liability. So it's not just Carver and Wareham would be liable. It's all 3 towns. We're all 3 part of the district. We're all liable for the landfill in South Carver. So in case something happens there, we're all liable. There is an insurance policy that gets renewed every 10 years up to, I think, 2035 or 2045. That is all paid up. There's an account for that, and there's liability insurance for that. So that's the transfer station in a nutshell, I think. The next part of that is a hauler system. Wareham did a RFP, and we kind of tagged along with that for Carver, and we got those amounts from 3 different companies: Waste Management, ABC, and Republic. And the lowest one was ABC, and that was what, 3? Rick, I need help with the numbers.
It was a total, $312,000, basically $312,000, yes.
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
I'm trying to read my own writing here, so. $312,000 for services plus tonnage, refuse tonnage. So that would be another $272,000. Basically, the full cost of a labor and disposal would be about $772,000 a year, which breaks down on a per household basis to about $228. But again, that's a I guess you'd call it a mandatory program for the entire curbside town-wide. And again, this is not a recommendation, this is just for perspective. That's what this is for.
And the other two companies were substantially higher. They also had increases for fuel allowances, overage amounts, and there were a lot more added to it, which could bring that number up higher. And like I said, those were substantially higher, I think in the 400 range.
Yes. Yeah.
Plus.
Right.
So my goal with this whole thing is to bring back to the residents and to this board the recommendations to town meeting. So I'd like to know what they want. Do they want us to keep a transfer station open and running? Do they not? Do they want to do a townwide trash hauler system and run that or not? I know we already had a vote to say not to, but let's put them out. At least they have figures now that we can go back and say, hey, these are the figures that we've come up with. And if you're interested, yeah. If you're not, then no. One of the other things is that what the district did work on was a exit agreement, not an exit agreement, a skeleton committee where the district would not be in the trash business at all. It would go to a skeleton district, and that skeleton district would just pay bills, meet maybe 4 times a year to pay the bills for the year, and it would be up to the residents to pick whatever trash haul they want, and we wouldn't have any transfer station at all. In my opinion, I would want to bring that out to the membership of the town meeting so they have all the options. They have the option of keeping a transfer station, yes or no. If not, then we go have a vote on if they want to go to a skeleton district. All right, and then to turn around and give them the option of having a townwide trash pickup system. Bring that up. The only issue that comes into play is Wareham. The agreement with Marion has a contingency if the towns vote to approve the skeleton district, then the agreement with Marion is null and void. So they will stay within the district as a skeleton district. There'll be 3 members of that skeleton district, 1 from each town, and then there will be, the Board of Selectmen will be basically not a Board of Selectmen, the town administrators would be a separate entity that would oversee the district. So basically you have your checks and balances with that, with the monies that are available. So Wareham, I guess, voted on their town meeting, and their town meeting, they did not include that agreement to the skeleton district. That being said, if Carver would go ahead and put it on the town meeting floor and they vote in favor of it, it's really a null and void because Wareham has to approve it too. If Wareham doesn't pass it, it doesn't mean anything. So it's up to this board to make a decision if they want to go forward with that skeleton district agreement or not. Give you some funds. The district will probably have close to $1.6 million in the bank somewhere around January, February. That's money from Cavanta, CMAS coming to us. Now, with some of that money, we have to pay out our future liabilities for Plymouth County, which is about $400,000, a little less than $400,000. Then we have other insurance policies and other stuff that we go, another $200,000 for that or more. And then there was money that's supposed to be put away also, I think, for totaling somewhere around $400,000, if I remember correctly. So that's going to leave us about $600,000 left in the bank for the district to play around with. The compactors at the transfer station need to be replaced. They're not in good shape. At least 2 of them. Cavanta already said that we can have them. They're not going to take them out when they leave, so at least we have something there. The district will have to buy a roll-off truck and to take all that trash a couple of times a day to CMAS to dump off. They'll also have to do probably a plow truck to plow out there, in my opinion. Probably 3 employees will be hired to run the facility. We'd also keep the executive that we have to oversee it. He's done an excellent job, and we hope that he would be retained and keep in our system. So, gave you a bunch of information. Questions, comments? Did I miss anything, Rick?
No, you did pretty well, Bob. I would just say for the upcoming town meeting, there's articles on the warrant. You want to just review what those are specifically, and should the town go forward with even considering those, in your opinion? What's your thoughts?
Well, I've always said give the taxpayers, the residents, the vote, all right? So, I mean, the skeleton district, I think we're going to put it on the last one, we should probably keep it on for it. Let the voters vote. If they vote in favor of it, great. I mean, Wareham, like I said, Wareham is already not putting it on theirs. So if they don't put it on, our vote is kind of a moot point. But I'm putting it to you guys to make a decision to put that on. That's the first one. The other one would be a trash hauling system, as a townwide trash hauling system, put it out there and let people vote on that. And then the other one is do we want to keep a transfer station open and running? There are possibilities that what's going to end up happening is that the transfer station, as it's running, it's going to need money to fund it. Some of this $600,000 can help fund the startups of it to keep it running. And then as people buy stickers, that money can go in to help pay that off. The logistics of paying for a card system for punch cards and a bag program, we haven't delved into that too much right now, but that's what was put out there for us. So there is a risk. I'm not going to lie to you. There is a risk that the district turns around, and if we don't have enough people running in there, then we're going to have to possibly cut staff to pay the payroll and come back to the towns and say, hey, we need some more money to run this and keep it running. That's something I'm against. I mean, whatever money gets put in to run this, that's what gets put in to run it. Okay, if you can't run it, then we need to get out of it. But it's getting so close to the end of the year, we need something for our residents. Just my opinion. So.
Could I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So this is the municipal agreement with Wareham to just continue the district as it's set up? Is that something that you would suggest be on the warrant as well?
I don't think, because just the logistics of everything right now and the time frame to get everything changed over and moved and everything, I don't think there's enough time.
Okay.
There really isn't. Keeping the district where the district can assess the towns, because that will end up happening, is the district will assess the town a certain amount of money to pay for what's being done, and the town has to pay for it. And the fees that the town, the Board of Selectmen, we will decide what the fee will be for the stickers.
Okay.
So we'll have to make that. The district will turn around and probably come back and say, we recommend the sticker price be this. All right, and it's up to you guys. And then this is how much a card will cost for it, or this is how much a bag program will cost for it, or there's another one, a sticker program. You can just buy stickers and you put stickers on your bags. Whatever system is put in place. But it's going to cost money no matter what. And my feeling is if we have numerous options, it's good, because we have people that they can't afford an extra $300, $400, $500 a year for trash hauling, and they may only have a couple of bags that they have to get rid of every week, and it's just not responsible for them to say, hey, why should I do this? If we give a alternate option, it's better for the town. And if it doesn't work, like I said, it's time to walk away. I mean, we can't fund an operation that is not fiscally responsible.
Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Mrs. Bogart?
Question for you and then question for you. The math, the 312, 245, 58 for labor and administration from the ABC quote. And then the
Yes.
272 estimated cost, they don't add up to 772,000. So
You're absolutely correct. That was clearly a slip of the finger because, yeah.
Well, and that's good, because that brings down the cost
No,
per
no,
household.
No, I think, no. That's, let me redo that math, because the number per household is correct. So I have a word processing error in this memo, so.
Okay.
Yeah, let me, I'll get that out to you later tonight before I go home. just so you-
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cost per
Because the numbers
household.
we went over with the engineer, who the consultant too, so the number's correct, but
The
let me get
772
that. No,
is
per-
correct?
Per
or-
house, the per household.
Okay, the 228 is correct, but
that's
how we
correct.
got there is not.
Yes, let me, again, I will correct that this evening and get that out to the board.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because that, and then, Bob, the $100 to $125 a sticker and punch card, how close can we get to like finalizing that by the end of the year? Because I'm with you, I like options. I think that seems like it could be a good thing. So how quickly can we get those stats for the punch card and the bag that you said haven't been worked out?
So the bag program is, from what I've been told, is help funded by the state. But to get that up and running takes time. So in the meantime, a punch card system, I think, is the best option. All that is printing up the cards and then finding places to sell them. We don't want to sell them at the transfer station. We don't want to have to deal with money. One of the other options was a kiosk to be put down at the transfer station where you could buy it through a kiosk. Then the actual logistics of it, we're still in negotiations on how we're going to do that. So it has to be put into place. We have another meeting on the 30th with Wareham representatives. So now that we really didn't want to say a whole lot before we got the vote with Marion, knowing where Marion's at. With Marion getting out, it now turns around, and from our discussions in the past, that any other issues that we discussed during the Route 28 facility, that they'll just not vote for anything. So they'll sit silent as we turn around and try to maneuver the district into keeping the transfer station open.
So when can we know how much a punch will cost? So we know like final cost, like 100 or 125 a sticker, then on average, blank per punch, so you can kind of figure out how much it's going to be a year. Because I've never even heard of a punch card trash thing, but it sounds neat, so.
Well,
Yeah, a punch card is
Yeah.
simple. You pay X amount. You may have a $50 punch card that's made up of a number of different increments, like $3 or $5, and each bag is worth. It's almost like a pay-as-you-throw, except you're punching a card instead of actually paying for a bag. It really, it's. But again, pricing that card, that's.
Right, when can we know that?
difficulty. Well,
we'll have to discuss that later. We have a meeting on the 30th.
Okay.
That'll be one of the things, like I said, we're limited of what we could say before that vote came in yesterday.
Okay.
Now that that vote's in yesterday, we can really start moving forward and hoping that town meeting will support the running of it.
So we can know more soon, then maybe have even harder facts and figures.
Hopefully.
Because I don't want to say yes or no to anything before we know. Like, I don't want to say, let's close the dump, or transfer station.
yes, don't call it.
Transfer station.
I don't want to close the transfer station if we don't know that it would be doable to keep it open.
Right.
I want us to know what it would be before we close it. I don't want to make a long-term decision on short-term info.
Right.
So I would love to know more, and that's, all right.
And that estimate's going to be a little bit of finesse, because, you know, you're using, you know, numbers, number of stickers, you're looking at number of households, you're trying to predict behavior
Yeah.
when you have a significant change in the dynamics, considering we're paying for the disposal costs now, that's all built in. So there's a lot of consideration that has to go into making those numbers work between what a sticker would be versus what the, you know, disposal per bag or per, I mean, you can make the numbers work. It's just a matter of what combination works best to try and, maximize the use of the transfer station. And that's, I know Bob and one of his counterparts in Wareham, they're kind of having a little bit of a gut check over where that balance is. So that's safe to say, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, from the discussion of saying, well, we could do it for under $100, we want to try to keep it as under, but my feeling is we don't know how many people are going to buy a sticker, all right? We don't know we know the amounts of trash that comes in through tonnage reports, but even still, we don't know how much trash each person is going to put in. And that's where we have to have control mechanisms of the people that are working in the transfer station to know that, okay, fine, we don't accept this type of wood. We don't accept this. We don't accept that. There's going to be a hard line of saying, you can't bring in big things of plastic, toys and whatnot. You can't bring these other things, building material or windows. That ain't going to happen anymore. So there's going to be a gut check with people saying, oh my God, I have this stuff and I have to get rid of them. What am I going to do with it? And we don't want them to dump it in the woods. We want to give them some place to dump it. All right, well, ABC has a facility across the way for it. Give them those options, but you got to pay more for it. But the transfer station is only for household waste. That's it. Household waste, recyclables, that's it. There are things that I have ideas that we could go further along with that transfer station, of doing a swap shack or something like that, to make it more convenient for people to do things. But there's also issues with the swap shack that when things stay there for too long, someone's got to get rid of it, and who's going to end up getting rid of it is we are. And we don't want people just dumping stuff there. So there's a lot of interests, but I want to start with the basics. I want to start, just keep the transfer station, make sure that it runs right, make sure we're paying all our bills, and we're not going to the taxpayers for money to keep something open. But the money issue is really tough. We may come into the fact to say, okay, instead of having 5,000, we actually have 6,000 or 7,000 people buying tickets to get in here. It's like, great. Then we're going to meet and possibly exceed what we have, and then any money left over, we can do some other things to the transfer station, upgrades or changes or whatnot. But we need to look at that, and we have to go through the figures again, and it's a business, and you don't want to turn around and end up knowing that the business isn't going to work.
Right. So if we were to move forward with it, and we realize it doesn't work, how quickly could it be closed?
So the way, it just takes a vote of the district to close the actual transfer station. All right? Say it's not working, we can't leave the district. We're still going to be part of the district. But Carver will have to turn around and say, we're not going to turn around and be able to support this anymore. We need to close this over. Wareham would more than likely, because they have a lot more users of the facility, that they're going to need something no matter what. And I said this before, they're prepared to run a facility their own. They were all set to go ahead and run a new facility for their residents only, and they had backup plans. They had money in the bank from sticker fees. They didn't lower their sticker fees to $10 like we did. They kept their sticker fees and kept all that money. All that money was put into a separate account to help to go forward with whatever plan they're going to do with it. So they were planning for the future. We, not that much. But now we are planning for the future, and we need to turn around and tie in those numbers. And I agree, we got to come up so quickly, because we have to have a proposal for town meeting.
Okay. Any more questions?
I have a few questions.
Mr. Hoffman.
Just now, you said Wareham was prepared to run a transfer station if this situation happened. And then so if Carver didn't want to participate.
Jim, you probably want to speak closer to the mic.
Oh, all right. So my question is, Bob, you just mentioned that Wareham was prepared to run a transfer station. They have a backup plan to run a transfer station if Carver decides to bow out of this. Is that correct?
They're going to have to. They have.
But I know, but do you know for a fact that they have they relayed that to you?
Oh, yes.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is, if we don't, what has me concerned is the way the economic environment is right now, to take a chance that maybe this will work. I don't think this is the right time to do that. But if Wareham has a backup plan to run a transfer station, can't we come up with an agreement to have them run it, and then we could pay them?
We had talked about that through a municipal agreement.
Okay.
Okay. It's a lot more challenging to do it that way.
Since
Because
less
that's
liability.
pretty much what the prior town administrator was doing with Plymouth, was saying, okay, well, you can drive all the way down to Plymouth, use their transfer station, you gotta pay for the bags, and you're gonna pay a little bit extra to use that facility. Well, that amount of money now turns around and says, might as well just get a trash hauler to come in and do it. The same thing with Wareham. Where I think that they were gonna propose to put one would be the same distance of me driving all the way down to that facility in Wareham, and more than likely, they're gonna do the same thing that Plymouth would do, would say, fine, you guys can come in here, but you're gonna have to pay a fee, you're gonna have to pay for the bags, and you're gonna turn around and probably pay a little bit extra to come into our facility. All right, so then we have no skin in the game to turn around and actually say, hey, well, negotiate the fee. Well, we have no way of negotiating a fee because it's their facility. These being within the district, we're part of the game. We're the ones that we have control also. So we have the same amount of votes as Wareham does.
I'm just a little nervous with, if we had a agreement with them, then we don't have any liability, and so we don't have any chance to lose money either. I'm just saying, as another option. You want to relay all options to everybody, so that's just an option I had never heard of before. I've been attending a couple of the meetings, so I thought that was interesting. When you discuss things, when Rick and yourself talk with Wareham, obviously you'll have some more discussions now that Marion is officially out of the district. Do you include the other two members of the Carver district?
I have not.
Okay. Is that something I think we should do? Rick, or?
I'm happy to do that.
I'm just,
They're free to attend. I mean,
but
I like I said, they've already said in the past that they don't want a transfer station, so they're not even interested in one. So, I mean, if they're going to be that way, where they're not going to look at this as a viable option to come forward, then I don't know if they're going to add to the discussions of the direction to go. You want someone who's positive, who wants to turn around and try to make this work, all right? And
I'm
if
sure
they
that.
want to come, they can.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that they were invited to at least to these meetings. I don't want to seem like it's just you and Wareham and closed door, hidden meeting type thing. I mean, we have to be very open on this.
Right, and let me also understand that because we're part of a district, okay, that technically it's a district of 9 members. So if we have 3 members from Carver, 1 member from Wareham, that means the Wareham person can't talk to anybody within his town about this with the other members of his town. So then it becomes an issue with, well, how can he talk to his other members to do that? So really, my feeling is that if we had 1 other member that was interested out of the 3, then that's fine, but if you have all 3, it really limits what he can do to discussions with his other entities. Because you have to understand, one of the other members, you have one selectman, you have 1 head of the DPW, which has a lot of information, and they also have 1 other member that's been in the industry for many, 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 many years, who has a lot of information.
So can't you have a meeting, an official meeting on these? We have notes and minutes and all that type of thing, instead of just having I don't want to say secret meeting, but especially now that, we want to come up with some options. I think it all should be on the record, all should be, recorded.
Well, if you want, I mean, some of this is negotiations too, that we're negotiating with them to say, hey, this is where we're going back and forth, and really, it's up to, I'd have to bring that up at our next meeting. I think it's the 30th is our next meeting, so.
Because, and I've gone the last couple of meetings trying to catch up, because I'll admit I was not up to speed on this at all, so I'm trying to get caught up to speed on the whole situation. So the meetings from now on, well, the district is still intact, the district. But now there are only 6 members. There'll be 6, like at the next district, well, the next district meeting will, Marion hasn't officially approved that, correct?
There'll always be 9 members until January 1st.
Right.
When they go to their town meeting, I think it's in November, that they'll have their town meeting, they'll vote on that. All right, up until January 1st, there'll be 9 members, but if there's issues that we're gonna turn around and start changing things around, and maybe using money to update that Route 28 facility, after we've taken care of all of the other bills with the funds that we need to do, all right, then what I've been told was that they'll just be silent. They won't vote on it. So.
Okay. And the other thing that was brought up, and I think, Rick, you had heard that as well, was Wareham doesn't have that on their town meeting, didn't get on the warrant, but they said they could call a special town meeting. So does that mean I mean, I feel as though we should still put it on our town meeting just to get the pulse of the voters to see if we still want it, because I believe last year's town meeting, the town, we voted against this. We voted for closing the transfer station. Not the last meeting that we all, the last year's meeting.
I don't believe the town has taken that vote.
We haven't taken a vote.
What was the vote that?
There was a vote not to allow the former town administrator to investigate
A preferred hauler.
preferred hauler.
Preferred hauler, okay,
That was very different.
okay,
Which is not a curbside program, by the way. It's a different
great,
animal.
So if there are no more
okay.
I have
questions, issues, Mr. Townsend?
just a few things. So first of all, I think it's absolutely imperative that we have these questions on the fall town meeting warrant. 'Cause we have to get the sense of where the town wants to go. I think the town has spoken pretty far, first of all, as far as the mandatory hauler, I think the town has been pretty clear in the past that that's not somewhere they want to go, that they like having a choice of who picks up their trash. I think we absolutely need clear guidance from the town as to whether they even want us to go forward with the transfer station proposal. Because if they don't want us to, there's no sense in having all those negotiations. We need guidance from the town there. So I think all those questions, it's absolutely important that those are on the fall town meeting warrant. And I guess my question, well, a few questions. If the town was to say yes, and if they said yes in the fall town meeting warrant, they're interested in keeping the transfer station open, is there time to put together an operational plan?
Yes.
You feel confident that there's,
Yes.
in those 2 months or whatever, we can put together a plan? And I think the other reason we need to have this on town meeting warrant is if the town wants to close the transfer station or no longer wants to participate, these people need plans to make arrangements for their trash. They need to contract with a hauler. So we need to give them time to decide what they're going to do. As far as the Route 28 facility, once Benson Brook closes and Marion takes that over, is it prepared for the influx? Is the equipment down there up to speed, or do you think there's going to be an infrastructure? Are we going to need to invest money in infrastructure over there?
No, there's going to have to be an investment for infrastructure. The two of the compactors are duct taped together. Okay, they'll need to be replaced, 2 of them. The other one for cardboard, in my opinion, we would transfer that to a trash one, so you'd actually have 3 compactors going instead of just 2. Then the cardboard would be in a different type of container. We had plans when I first started the district to actually change over how you came into facility and out of the facility, and to change the direction of the compactors and add compactors to it. That was prior to going to a skeleton district when that was put in. That's still a possibility. One of the other things we didn't discuss, and we haven't discussed with them yet, is Rochester. Rochester's kind of an outlier out there. if they're going to be interested in joining the district, or if they just want to be able to purchase stickers and punch cards or bags with that, with that system. So I think the numbers were for the Route 28 facility. So from July, at Route 28, they had, oh, that's tonnage, sorry, wrong one. All right, Benson Brook for 2020, on week of 9/9, there was 1,300, almost 1,400 cars from Wareham. So that would be an influx of 1,300. The following week, there was 1,200. That was in Benson Brook. It was 13 and a half, 1,100 cars, 1,400 cars. So you're looking at extra 1,400 cars possibly being brought to Route 28, which is a lot of vehicles going in and out.
That's a lot. So any investments that we would need to make in infrastructure down there so to be able to handle that, is that figured in to your costs, either in what the district has on hand money-wise or in the sticker fees?
Yeah, that was...
I think Mr. Belbin explained that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's money left over in the kitty, all right, come in January. All right, the good thing is that we don't have to pay any money to Marion. If Marion wanted, they could have turned around and taken 20% of the cost of whatever Route 28 facility and land cost, 20% of all of the equipment that is there that the district owns. So you think of that 20%, now is turned around and brought back to us, that allows us to do stuff. We had an outlier there too, that, I mean, if the district stayed in place, the district to turn around and say, we're going to run Marion for 1 day a week, and we're not going to allow Marion residents in it. So, and they kind of knew that that's a possibility that could happen, and thus, lo and behold, the agreement that we agreed upon last night, there's no monetary money. The money in the district, the money in the district. But we still have to pay those liabilities out first before we do anything with any of that money. So, and retirement we'll get back from Plymouth County will be in January, end of December, January, to know what the actual figure was. The last one we had was like $390,000 for employee costs for retirements. That's the big one.
If we were to leave the district, I have to assume there are some ongoing bills we would have to.
I think Mr. Belbin has talked about those already too.
I think he did, but what I'm wondering is, do we have an idea of how much money on an annual basis those bills would cost?
Okay, so a lot of the bills that will come in are ones that are already going to be paid for by Covanta.
Okay.
So it's basically Covanta paying us, we paying for insurance policies. Because that's really what it all is the insurance policies, because Route 28 facility will be sold. That's if we don't keep a transfer station. That's going to be sold. Carver will take a percentage of that, and Wareham will take part. Marion won't take anything. Same with any of the equipment that's there. It gets sold off. So the town, if ever something happens and we want to get out, the town of Carver will end up getting some money back. May not be immediately. The district may hold on to some, but at some point, some money will come back to the town of Carver. You have to understand the land is 10 acres of land there. And there's some wetlands on there, but even still, I mean, even if we sold the property for $400,000, the town of Carver will get a percentage of that.
So just to follow up on what Ms. Bogart said earlier, if we were to enter into an agreement with Wareham, decide after a couple of years, you know what, this isn't working for us, and we chose to get out, we'd still have enough money in there to be able to pay whatever ongoing obligations Carver had. We wouldn't have to come looking for an annual assessment.
No, the only time you're going to need to get money is if there is an environmental issue at the landfill in South Carver. There's a $100,000 deductible for each event. So if there was one event, it's $100,000 right there, and that's got to come from the district. If there were 5 events, that's $500,000. So, I mean, we're always going to have a liability down in South Carver, but there's also a liability with Cavanta and with AD Makepeace, One Kinko. All right, they hold some liability also. So it's not just the towns, there's these other entities too. So,
If I may at this time, I'd like to move on, and I appreciate that information.
If I could, I just have two quick comments.
Okay, we have an appointment at 8:05, and we're almost 20 minutes late for it.
All I want to say is I think, Mr. Bell, and I appreciate all the work you've done on this, but I think it's important that we hear from the other 2 members as well at some point. So I'd like to see them included in a future meeting so that we could hear from them as well.
that's fine. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Try to schedule it in the next meeting.
I'd like to ask the board if we can take the discussion of the select board as committee to consider citizens petition article item before we talk about the 6-month evaluation, since we do have Mr. Eldridge here with us, and he's been waiting a while, if that's okay with everyone?
Sure.
Mr. Eldridge? So while he's joining us, I just want to remind everyone at the town meeting in June, the vote was to the the main petitioner, Mr. Eldridge, although there were more petitioners than himself, was unable to make that meeting, and he requested that we postpone it. And the suggestion from his attorney was that the select board could be designated as the committee to consider putting this article on the warrant. So that's what we're here to do tonight. Mr. Eldridge? No, you do not. You're far enough away. Mm-hmm.
First, I'd like to thank the board and Mr. LaFawn for inviting our attorney to come and speak in regards to this warrant article that I proposed.
Pull that microphone a little closer.
Closer?
Yeah.
I need it closer?
Yeah.
So, I guess, can I go into the process of how this came about, and then
Certainly. Mm-hmm.
what kind of goes from there?
Mm-hmm.
So, our family has land on Lakeview Street. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that parcel of property on Lakeview Street. Throughout the years, there's been interest in that property. I don't know, financial interest or how it went. There were certain things that our family received from certain boards and certain comments, which led us to put a bunch of public requests out to the town. I believe, and I think Elaine had something to do with a lot of it, or getting it together, I'm not sure, I don't want to misquote it, or whatever. But our attorney, Paige Wilkins, indicated that she believes that the town has given us all the documents that we've requested through the different boards, the chairmans, the committees, to this point. I don't know if you have that information, I don't know if it's
I don't have that
completed or not.
information.
But based on the information that we got there, our fear was that the town was going to move for eminent domain on that property. So during this period of time, we had one lawyer that we used, but he was more of an environmental type lawyer that represented us. And then we had an estate attorney that represented us. And we decided, based on what we were getting out of the town hall in regards to some letters and some phone calls that our prior lawyer received from our former town administrator, that we should find somebody who was more versed in eminent domain. So we went out and we hired Lori Friedman out of Boston. They're a big firm. Paige Wilkins is a partner in that firm. She represents our family. We put the public records request out. We received a lot of those back. We So I guess at this point, based on what we see, it doesn't appear that the town is moving for eminent domain that we know of at this point. You guys might know more than that, but as far as ours knowing that,
There's no proceedings.
Yeah.
Eminent domain.
And so if I may, Mr. Eldridge, this article that you proposed was for town-wide. In other words, we couldn't put an article on there that was concerning just one lot.
No. And I guess what I'm getting to now is that the article that I had during this research, because I don't believe personally, and that's why I drafted this warrant, that big developers should come in and profit off of eminent domain. I did a lot of studying on eminent domain, and even when these big developers come in and take by eminent domain and they don't go forward with the eminent domain, the threat of eminent domain over the landowners is immense. And they may negotiate out, but part of that negotiation involves, with eminent domain, the town kind of goes in, gets an appraisal, goes into the registry of deeds if it's approved, and then you're left to go to court and find the highest and best use if you don't like their evaluation. So if there's a discrepancy in the money, then in court's expensive. You're gonna pay lawyers, and you've got to pay the court, and it's time consuming. And it's one thing when you have a $10 million deal out there or a $5 million deal out there, but it's hard. I mean, if you've got a homeowner that's got a couple $100,000 and they're offered half the value, by the time they go to court, wait that time for highest and best use, they may only see another 10 grand, so they will negotiate at a lower value. And I didn't think it was fair. So during that part, I went online and I looked, and there were several communities in Massachusetts, Marshfield being one, North Andover being another one, that had this exact bylaw that I drafted on in their bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
So I copied the bylaw, and I got the signatures, and I passed it in. Then, the town meeting came up, and my son is a first year at the U.S. Naval Academy. And it was between going to town meeting or dropping him off to start leave summer. And I watched this kid work his butt off to get there, and I wouldn't have missed being in Annapolis for anything, just for the town's knowledge. So then there was conversations that ensued after, and we talked about what we do with this article. Since that period of time, things have gone on. And I'm here today because I just wanted to say that I don't think there's anything imminent on it, but since that period of time, the town's decided, the planning board's decided to form this bylaw committee to go over all our bylaws, planning, development,
Zoning.
the whole 9 yards. And I'm a part of that committee, and that's kind of the discussion that I wanted to bring in, because Sarah just said that she doesn't think that a bylaw should go for a single individual landowner, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I can be an advocate for it, but I don't think it should be decided because my property might be taken.
Yeah. Well, it actually can't because it's called spot zoning, and we can't do that. And I know that was not your intent.
But I really wouldn't want to see something like this. In the committee idea sounded real good. When our lawyers started talking with Rick and everything else, I think that's really where this needs to go before it goes on the town warrant. I think that bylaw committee should have a discussion on that, because I know there's certain areas in town that they're looking to develop and other parts not, and I don't want to withhold anything. I think there would be meetings. We're meeting 2 times a month or more if needed as it goes to the spring meeting. So I think it would be better addressed. I know that you had indicated that you thought maybe that the select board should be the committee. I'm proposing that either we take this off and I get signatures later on, and maybe we can put this in front of that committee just to discuss, and if it's something that wants, maybe they can sponsor it, or I can do it again if need be. But at this point in time, based on everything that's occurred since I drafted this thing in November of 2019, and this meeting's coming up in only a few weeks, it would be my hope that we don't go forward with this. I don't know how to kill it. I just know what I would like to do, and possibly have it discussed at that committee, and then reintroduce it down the road at some point if need be.
Before you speak, Mr. LaFawn, I just wanted to add to this board that, and I'm sure you've seen the article in the past, but I don't know if you remember all the parts of it. It does very specifically say that the eminent domain has to be for a public use, not for private development. And speaking for myself, I liked that. And towns' bylaws can be more restrictive than the state. So I know the state allows it to be a private developer, but we don't have to.
I know there was some conversations about that, and I know that in the end, after the Warren article, if it is accepted by the town, it has to go in front of the Attorney General's office for review anyway. So they would find that there was a constitutionality argument to it or something. They would come back and tell the town after. So I know that there's been conversations with our attorney and also Copeland and Bates, and they talked about this in regards to that. So, but right now, I think that's all kind of moved if we collectively agree that it should not go forward at this next town meeting and kind of hold it for that committee to go.
Mr. LaFawn.
This is not a petition article for a special town meeting. As you know, it would take 200 signatures to get a special town meeting article. I think going back in time, I think we were talking about giving, Mr. Eldridge the courtesy of allowing this to go on the special town meeting without having to go through the petition process again.
Correct.
Because of your family situation.
Correct.
So at this point, it's either up to the board or not. You're not obligated to have this on the agenda, on the warrant. So if Mr. Eldridge prefers that now's not the time, then if the board chooses to, well, then I assume someone on the board's going to be standing up at town meeting representing the article. If Mr. Eldridge chooses not to.
Okay. So your wish at this time is for this not to be on the special town meeting?
Yeah, I would rather see it discussed as an option with that zoning bylaw committee.
Okay.
And there's some good people that are on that committee that would probably take stands maybe on both sides. But I think that's really what will come out of it, that people, even the community, would have an opportunity to come in maybe when those committees meet and voice their opinions. So I think based on what's happening in the town with that committee now, this would be preemptive. It would be too early to be introduced at this point.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board?
Do we need a motion?
We can. All these things are covered by the line at the top that says discussion and possible vote. So, Mr. Hoffman, who was it wanted to say something? Oh, Mr. Belbin.
I would think you need a vote to put it on the warrant.
You would need a vote to put it on the warrant.
You don't need a vote to not put it on the warrant.
Okay.
Because it's not already, so you can just let it die in committee. So.
Okay. Mr. Belbin.
Well, I don't want to let it die on the committee. I want to support that it goes to the committee on zoning. I think that's a good place for it to be, and I'd support that going forward.
I feel the same.
I mean, I don't know the mechanisms of that, so that would be, you guys' expertise.
Well, I guess it would be something you would introduce since you're a member.
I'm on the committee, so I would definitely.
Right, you
bring
could
something
introduce
up.
that.
I don't have an issue with that.
Exactly.
I can definitely bring it up.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other?
We want you to.
Okay.
I want you to.
Yeah,
That's fine, that's
I do
fine.
too. I do too.
I just didn't know if there was a way that it had to be introduced. If it's just me going in there and opening my mouth, that's generally not a problem.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
No. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eldridge, for being here. I appreciate it. Your time.
Go back to Chinese food and drive-ins.
And trash.
Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay. Now, this item for the 6-month evaluation really needs to be a short one. The question is basically the town administrator, the interim town administrator's contract states that the board shall review and evaluate the town administrator 6 months and then 1 year after the execution of this agreement. So this agreement was executed on April 22nd, 2020. And so by my calculation, that 6-month evaluation would come up on October 22nd. The only thing we need to discuss tonight, if we can keep it as short as possible, is whether or not you want to use the formal evaluation process that we used for the previous town administrator at this point in time, or if you'd rather, at this early stage, use a more informal approach, and then maybe in the more formal one later. So I will take responses. Mrs. Bogart.
I would say we take a formal one. Being town administrator, interim town administrator, whatever you are, is a very serious, important role. So I think any evaluation should be taken very seriously.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Belbin, would you?
So by formal, using the same process that we did with the former town administrator, using the same process and format?
Yeah, it's a 5-page form.
I'm not scared of a form.
No, I'm not suggesting that that I am. I'm just asking if that's what you'd like to do.
Sure.
Okay.
I take this seriously, so, I mean, I haven't been
Well, I
involved
don't think
in others, but...
I don't think an informal approach is not taking it seriously. I think my thought was that since it's still early in the game, to give the guy a chance for us to be able to fill out a formal one down the road. But that's just I will do whatever the board says. Mr. Townsend.
I like the formal process. I thought the form we used with Mr. LaFond was pretty encompassing.
With our former town
I'm sorry, yeah, with Mr. Malinowski. My apologies, Rick. And I would like to go forward with that. And the only, I guess, comment I would make is, I think after you fill out that form, I think it's a great idea to sit down with Rick and just give him a chance to discuss it, because I think sometimes those discussions may give you some greater understanding of why he does
That's correct.
what he does.
Yeah.
And actually, in the contract, it says that we actually really need to do that.
Yes.
Mr. Belbin.
So I'm a little bit different. I think personally in informal, we've all have talked with Rick. We've seen how he's been doing his job here, and that we all have some pluses, some minuses, some no opinion at all, but that the process, my feeling is just to give an outline for this one to say, okay, how you doing, what's going on, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. More informally, I kind of prefer that before we do one for the 1 year. At the 1 year point, I think a more formal one gives us that opportunity. And then we can go through the process of filling out the paperwork, having a sit down with Rick, going through it with him, and then coming back out here, and then discussing it out here as a board for looking at goals and objectives for a future 6 months. Just my opinion.
Mr. Townsend. I mean, I've done this before. I know who you are.
You're looking right at me and saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
I guess my question, so a formal evaluation is a standard evaluation form type thing that's already printed up?
It was a form that the former select board actually asked me to create, then they had to approve it as a form. It's 5 pages. It's pretty in-depth, covers a lot of different topics. And then it's the individual is rated as to how well you think they did. It's sort of a numerical rating. And if you have no thoughts on it, then you just put NA. And then there's a box at the bottom for comments. So each page is pretty much the same. It's just a different topic: finances, relations with employees, etc.
So an informal, I'm just thinking, and I don't want to speak for Jen, but being new, it's my first time ever doing an evaluation like this, where I don't really know the structure that should be done.
Right.
So maybe the formal would help us a little bit more, whereas an informal, Bob, you've had some experience, and Mark and Sarah obviously been on the board longer. Well, you still have a year on us, so. I guess my question on the informal, is it left up to our interpretation of what we should be evaluating the interim town administrator on?
Well, that could be a decision of the board. I mean, we could come up, we have till October 22nd, we could come up with our agreed upon informal questions that we all get to ask, and then we can each decide, Do I like that answer, or it would be up to the board how you want to do that.
So almost it could be a combination of the informal and a formal evaluation.
Yeah, it could be. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as structured,
Mhm.
like you had said, Rick hasn't been on the job that long, then maybe not something as
Well,
structured as.
Not here,
Right,
recently.
Right, right, for us to evaluate his performance in Carver,
Yeah.
this most recent.
Right. That was just my feeling.
Right.
And could I just point out, Jen, I apologize, Jen had asked again for the spreadsheet that we had put together a few months ago in terms of tasks and goals.
Oh, yeah.
And I neglected to send that out, I apologize. You will have.
We'll get it.
You will have.
Okay, so
So it's not like we would each go have a conversation with him in his office to talk about? It's not like we're going to the principal's office to tell him what we think of
No.
what he's doing? We
No,
would do that in.
Coming to our office.
We would do that in
No, he would
open
be coming to
session?
our office, which is right here.
Okay, hey,
Yeah.
like
So-
you said, I'm new.
So I think, like I said, if we wanted to do what Jim has been talking about and have something that's, where we all kind of agree on the kinds of questions we're going to ask, but it's not this, cold, check the box, he gets a 3 or whatever. It's more of a, well, I feel that he's doing, this and that and the other way. So it's more of a discussion, but we could all agree on, is that kind of what you're thinking, Jim?
Right, because we're supposed to have one in 6 months and then another one 6 months later, correct?
Correct.
So,
At the 1 year point.
right,
Mhm. Yeah,
it's almost an informal formal,
Yeah,
if you
right,
will.
right. How does that sit with everybody?
I like that.
An informal, formal?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you guys submit your questions or whatever, the issues, thoughts to Elaine? And maybe we can get that on, if not the 30th, possibly the first meeting we have in October, whenever that is. And just kind of agree on what we're going to be, how we're going to be evaluating. How's that sound?
Could we get a copy of the formal evaluation form that was
Yeah.
previously used?
Y-
Maybe use as
Definitely.
a guide, see what we liked and what we don't like type thing?
Yeah. Do you have that, Elaine? Because I do. Okay, you want to, okay, thank you. Okay.
So
Yes, Mr. Belvin.
just make this clear, is that we fill out an evaluation on Rick. We sit down with Rick individually, we discuss it with him, all right, get feedback from him, all right, then we come back here and have our formal one here with us during an open session to discuss the evaluation. Is that correct?
I didn't think we were having one-on-ones.
That's what it says.
That's what the contract says, but Jen, when I said, he comes to our office.
Yeah.
I meant that then we all get together as a board and discuss how we filled out these evaluations. But the idea in here in the contract is to give him the courtesy of just having seen it first before we hit him over the head in a public meeting.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yeah, so we fill out a form, then we go talk to him, and then we come back here and report of how we talked to him? Will we be able to have an open discussion
We'll share the
in that meeting?
We'll share our
Your
forms.
comments, our comments.
So that-
We'll all be able to see everyone's comments.
Correct. So we'll all know what everybody said in that meeting.
Because I said last time, we all should bounce off each other. I like conversations jointly, because something I have to say may,
And so when we do get together to have that discussion, supposing you say something that makes me change my mind on something, we could do that too. It sounds like this little hybrid, formal, informal, would call for something like that.
Okay.
If you convince me, no, that's wrong. You think he's been doing pretty good, and Jim agrees, and so does Bob, and okay, you guys are right.
okay.
So, Mr. LaFawn, would you like to
I just
say?
have a question
Yeah.
myself. The members of the board would fill out some form as you deem appropriate. Then the members would individually come and speak to me. Now, I assume that's an opportunity for a board member to decide, well, maybe this was a little harsh here, and perhaps change that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Absolutely.
it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
courtesy, hey, this is what we got.
No, no.
See you in the chambers,
No, and I think that's the way it was in the past, too.
Yeah, I
And
think
so, Mr. Townsend, would you like to say something?
it was very helpful with me when I did my first assessment of Michael. To, I'd fill out the questions, then I'd go talk to him, and he could explain, well,
Right.
this is why I did this, or this is why I didn't do that. That very often can change your
Yes, I just want to make sure that that was.
No, I think that's the
No,
purpose
okay,
of
that's
meeting
good. I
with
just want to make sure it just wasn't a courtesy.
No.
That's all.
No, it is a courtesy, but it's more than that.
Okay.
And the same goes for our meeting. Our decision doesn't have to be set in stone. Yeah. Okay, so if you want to get questions to Elaine, framed in such a way that, how do you think Mr. LaFond is doing as in this category, whatever the category is, and we'll kind of collate those. That would be good.
And those will be on the form we fill out, or things
No,
we
these
talk
are
about in
questions that
here?
you're sending to Elaine, and she
Yes.
will combine those, and that will be the thing that we're all
Got it. Okay.
agreeing to respond to about Mr.
Got it.
LaFond.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they don't have to be formal questions. It can just be, you look like you need to say something.
So a question on it said the said review and evaluations shall be based on the goals and objectives developed jointly by the board and the town administrator.
So Rick set out that spreadsheet. That's the spreadsheet he's
Right.
talking about. Has everyone gotten that?
The new members.
No,
have
we're-
not.
Okay. So he will send you that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thanks, everybody. All right, this was something Mr. Townsend wanted on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the second week in September annually as Carver Public Safety Recognition Week.
I
And
guess
the-
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
This is just something I thought would be appropriate. The second week in September always encompasses September 11th. And something I discussed with the three chiefs, and I just thought it would be a good way for the town on an annual basis to recognize our first responders and our public safety officials, that's all.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and I did check that. You know how the weeks rotate, so like every month starts on a, anyway, I just checked that it really does include September 11th, no matter which way you look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Town Hall sponsored activities for Carver Kids update. Mr. LaFawn?
I am going to horrify Elaine and ask her if she could,
Mrs. Weston?
in your packet, there is a list that has been put together, and had I done this myself, I would be proud to discuss it. I would have to refer to Elaine.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty simple. As I wrote out in the agenda, a listing of activities has been established. We've set up a tax-exempt account with a company to purchase prizes, and then we just have a few more details to work out, and it will come to fruition.
That's terrific. Thank you. And when it finally does work out, that'll be announced everywhere, right? Good. Okay. Mrs. Bogart?
When I brought up the idea, this is awesome. Like, this is just spot on. I'm excited for the kids, so yay.
Thanks.
Well done, Elaine.
Yeah.
Yes, very well done.
I had help. I can't take.
Yes, and please thank her for us.
She won't tell you who, though.
But anyway. Great. Mr. Belbin?
Is there a possibility of a donations to a certain account for this project here, for the
Anyone
prizes?
could make a gift to the town to be accepted by this board for that purpose.
Okay.
And that's all that it could be expended for, was specifically what the gift is for. So if someone makes a gift, just make sure you're specific enough, and if you need some guidance in how to make that gift, you can let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sort of quick, so this is being sponsored by the
By
town?
the town of Carver.
Town of Carver, okay.
Yep. Okay, Mr. LaFawn, Town Administrator notes, the CARES Act
Yes.
update.
And I only have that because I perhaps would have had more, but the way these agendas are coming up rather quickly. And I have a brief handout. Mind just passing them around? Real quickly, there's not much to update you from the last time, other than the fact that, the spreadsheet we had last time, which stated we have about $1.5 million for us to, available to us. A number of these are fixed costs, in the green up above, and the other costs that are identified as possible expenses that we plan on applying for. What I just handed you tonight is just the request form from a relatively large document, which includes a lot of backup material of what was submitted this week, $72,000. And this, it gives you just a quick example of what those things are that we've submitted for this week. Mostly sanitizing equipment and computer work at home type things for teachers. So again, if any questions, fine, but I think it's probably just as easy for me to try to get you this cover sheet on a regular basis. I think it does a good job. It's concise in a process that's not generally concise. So, and I would be remiss again if I didn't thank Tom O'Brien for his help. He's trying to weave through a federal program himself, and so he has to do quite a bit of work himself, and they sponsor meetings all the time, Zoom meetings, to discuss issues, concerns that in the region. So, any other questions?
Just one.
Yep.
Have we received any money?
Actually, we have not technically received any money. There's only about 7 towns that have actually received money. I was told by Tom O'Brien this week that they have about 10 checks going out this coming week, so.
Great.
The good thing, though, is even though we don't have the money, we can still spend the funds in anticipation of revenue, almost like when you do your budget. As long as the commitment is there from the county, we can spend the funds.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any community announcements anyone would like to make? Seeing none, approval of minutes, 9/18/20 and 9/21/20. Let's do those first. Do you want to do them separately or together?
I make a motion we approve both 9/18/20 and 9/21/20.
Is there a second? Motion to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, and then approve and not to release executive session minutes of June 2nd, 2020. Is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve the release of those executive session minutes.
To approve and to release?
And to release.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second it.
There's been a motion and a second to approve and release the executive session minutes of June 2nd, 2020. Further discussion?
Just a quick question. Was this the one that we talked about the last meeting that we were going to hold off on?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe those minutes have been made available to us. Does everyone have a chance to read those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that, had you, Mark, you'd mentioned-
I had a question about the minutes because town council had recommended that we not release them, but I spoke with town council about it, and my concerns were satisfied, so
Okay.
I'm fine with releasing them.
So is that something you feel you can share with us or no?
No, I didn't think there was anything on the minutes that needed to be held back. But since we had a recommendation from town council, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something I was missing in their opinion, that's all.
Great.
So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Townsend.
my pleasure.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve and release the executive session minutes of June 2nd, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Abstaining.
One
'Cause I wasn't there.
abstention. Excuse me, one abstention.
I should abstain, sir.
Oh, 2 abstentions. Okay, there you go. Okay. Application for one-day special license at St. John the Baptist on October 17th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve.
Second.
There's been motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Passes unanimously. Mr. LaFawn, you look like you'd like to say something.
I would before you adjourn, because it's something I really should have raised.
Oh, okay. Let's just,
It's a feel-good thing, though. But
oh, good. Well, let's just do the fishing license.
That's fine.
Okay, request to use Sampson's Pond Fishing Tournament, June 19th, 2021, from 6 a.m. to noon. Is there a motion?
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
Second, motion and second. Any further discussion?
Just one quick question. There's one line at the very end of this application where the gentleman asks if he must have paid a $100 application fee for something earlier.
Yep.
Do we refund that, or?
It's not refunded, we're holding it until he can have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is this a Carver resident, or?
I don't remember, but he does it every year.
Okay. Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Okay, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Passes unanimously. Mr. Hoffman, would you let Mr. LaFawn, do you want to let him do his thing first, or?
Let's hear the feel-good.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
I'm just remiss in not mentioning, I know I've mentioned to all the members of this board that Connie Kelly was willing to accept the position of Council on Aging Director, coupled with her existing job, but she actually starts Monday, and I should have mentioned that formally, but I just think for the public, and certainly my thanks, and I know that the members of the COA are very pleased too, so congratulations to her. Glad she's willing to take this role, and at some appropriate time, we'll have thank Carol for her efforts. So,
Definitely.
So anyway, I
Thank you for that, yeah.
didn't stretch it too far, but
And congratulations to Connie. I think she'll be terrific. Mr. Townsend, you get, Mr. Townsend. Jim, you better start sitting over there again. Mr. Hoffman, you get the last word.
Okay, the select board note that mine says internet options are increasing internet capacity in the town. The reason I brought this up, the last meeting we had, the joint meeting with the school committee, one of the issues that was brought up was the difficulty of everybody Zoom meeting. And a lot of people I talked to kept getting kicked off Zoom. And I think it even happened during our selectmen meeting, a few people, that happens. So I don't know what options we have to try to increase the capacity, all that type of stuff. I don't know if, Rick, under the CARES Act, if we can get any money for that. I'm sure it's a lot of money, but I thought maybe it was worth a discussion.
have you spoken to anybody else about this yet?
No,
Okay, all right.
I just kind of popped in my head after that joint meeting and talking to some of the parents and asking what their problems were. The kids just kept getting kicked off. And I know in my own home that when my son's on and I'm on, that my wife can't use her laptop, so she's got to cut it off, and it's like, there's only so much at the peak. I'm sure everyone, has at one time or another. But I just thought maybe this is a good time maybe to look into that, and especially with the CARES Act funds that might be available.
Right. So maybe this is
Can't hurt.
something
I'll talk to Steve Mahoney about
we could do our homework on and just find out what our options are for the future meeting. Definitely.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Hey, wait a minute. I didn't say I'd entertain it. There's been a motion and a second.
Actually, you need 11 minutes to, Mr. Townsend said 9:10.
My prediction was
Yes.
9:10. I could talk for 11
If we
minutes.
could take a recess and come back in 11
No,
minutes.
we're not waiting 11 minutes. There's a motion on the floor. It's non-debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right.
8:58.
So you owe me how much?
I tried.
And we
Mine
were-
says 9 o'clock.
That's true.
and we weren't too bad because we projected